Have you ever wondered that the risks you are afraid to take are not as risky as they seem? Or actually, the risk lies in the stories we tell ourselves. In my recent conversations with Pankaj Guglani, the CEO of Pulse Business Solutions, he shared how changing your perspective can make these bold moves look less daunting. By expanding your time horizon, these risks seem far smaller. And the changes you are aiming for, they don't happen overnight, but they need a catalyst to truly shift. Pankaj also shared how stories we tell ourselves can either hold us back or push us forward to take the next step. That just gave me the goosebumps. If you have ever felt stuck or hesitant to take the next step, this episode will make you rethink your approach from a true nonconformist. So let's dive in. Pankaj, welcome to the Flow State podcast. I'm thrilled to have you here. Today we're not only going to talk about our friendship, but we'll talk about your journey so far. Pankaj, you and I know each other from the past almost 35 plus years, I guess. Today, focus on your remarkable journey, having started two different startups. First was Red Quanta, and second one is Pulse. For me personally, you are a true nonconformist. Today, I want to see how being a nonconformist helped you start two different companies, right? How those experiences have shaped you, your persistence, your resilience, your grit, and your innovation. It's so pleasure to have you on the podcast, Pankaj. Welcome.
Yes. Thanks, Rajesh. It's a pleasure to be a guest on your podcast, and it's always a pleasure to have a good conversation with you. So I
Yeah.
really look forward.
Okay, so let's do a quick tour, Pankaj. Talk us through your journey from starting or even thinking about Red Quanta. What made you think about starting a company? And then COVID had different plans. You started the second startup. Take us through the journey so far.
So I started my first venture. It was called Red Quanta back in 2010. We scaled it to 50 member team. What we were doing is that we were helping global brands improve and monitor their customer experience. And the method we used was crowdsourcing insights from the real customers. And so that venture we had to shut down during COVID. And now I'm 4 years into my second venture. It's called Pulse. It's a SaaS platform. Again, we're targeting the US market for the same. And specifically, the platform is for food and beverage companies to improve uh, the safety efficiency of their operation.
Good. Seems like building from India for the global brands is the new phenomenon nowadays. So I love that.
No, no, exactly. I think we have great tech talent in India. And we had in the previous company, we had cracked big global clients like Google, Xiaomi, and so on. So we're leveraging a bit of a previous experience working in the US market.
Look, our parents have worked in government jobs for most of their lives, right? And they never took any risk, especially from their income level perspective. What made you take that risk? What made you to take that leap? So walk us through that.
And I think it's a great question. And, this question is the one which I get asked often by friends, any family member looking to start up that, how do they mitigate the risk? I think anything we do in life, it's about the story we tell ourselves. Basically, and different people tell different stories. So I'm not giving a prescription that this should be anybody's story. So it has to be unique. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you how I look at this. When I started the first venture, at that time I had degree in engineering. I had worked for 2 years and I had done my MBA. And then I had again worked for like around 18 months. So I thought that I have four things: my graduation, post graduation, my work experience in tech, my work experience of 18 months in business, which can help me get a job whenever I want. So I thought that somebody who is dropping out of college
Hmm.
or maybe somebody who's leaving a government job is a real risk. So when people say that I'm taking a risk, I frankly don't understand, because it's not really a risk when you have so much backup. So I looked at my education and my experience as a good backup, and I did not look at it as taking a risk. So I'll give you one example. Sometimes I people come to me and say, okay, one of the risks they feel is that now they're married. Can they do it?
No, no.
So what I tell them is that, Shah Rukh Khan, the great Indian superstar, he
We all know
came
him. We all love him.
To Bollywood after he was married.
Yeah. Yeah.
And chances of success in Bollywood are even lesser than becoming entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So if he
Once in a
could become a
billion. Once in a
once in a
billion.
billion, yes, you're right. And if he could take that risk after being married, I think entrepreneurship is nothing. So I think it's again coming back to the point, it's the story that you tell yourself matters.
Shifting perspective. Shifting perspectives. Yes.
So I can say, okay, I was a risk taker and so on and so forth. I can say all those cliche things, but I think we
Yeah.
should keep it real. So I think the other thing I would think is that risk comes from doing something which you're not good at, which doesn't align with your strength. So I always looked at my strength as being good with people and not being so good with working in a structured environment. And I thought that if I go into a corporate job, that might be more risky because it doesn't align with my strength, which is to do things in a different manner where I might be constrained more. And so it's about playing to the strength because you would have examples of people who are very successful in corporate, and many people also are not able to have that great success. I think so. Other perception of risk comes that, okay, I am earning X $1,000 today. And if I start my own company and it takes like 3 years and nothing comes out of it, so I lose that salary. So, but how I look at it is that I look at things in the long term. So, if I'm aiming to make X amount and if I'm comparing myself, say, with my college peers,
Mm-hmm.
then I would look at how much I would potentially end up making in 10 years rather than looking at a 2 year horizon or a 3 year horizon. So, I'm saying it's not necessary that money should be the motivation. But
Mm-hmm.
again, coming back to the story point, if that is the thing which is sustaining you, you can always look at the long term and not just look at the short.
So you're expanding the time horizon. Instead of looking at short term, you're looking at long term. And long term could be, for some people, could be like 2 years. Some people could be like 10 years. For some people, it could be 30 years, right?
Yes, yes. And again, what you're comfortable with, because if that, whichever angle you think from, like we talk about being married, we talk about losing the salary,
Yeah.
we talk about failing. So as I said that, you could go into a corporate and very well fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these days when the layoffs happen, I think they've been happening forever and they are more in news. So I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
that there is risk uh, in whatever you go. It's again what you tell yourself. I think is more important.
So you said something about your strengths did not align with the corporate job, right? When did you realize that? Was that in your first job or in your second job after MBA? When did you realize that?
It was like a slow realization. Again, I'm not saying that there is anything bad in corporate or good in entrepreneurship. So one of the things I realized when I was doing my MBA, I took a lot of subjects in HR, although HR was not my major, and I really loved the organizational behavior and so on. And I saw that none of my classmates were interested in HR subjects. They thought, it's boring. It's
Soft skill, right?
Yeah, it's soft skill. But I really liked it. So, and I had a lot of ideas around, how do you build a culture? How do you make people productive? How do you build a team and so on? So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that these skills I can utilize better in my own venture.
Mm-hmm.
And in a corporate, I might not have the freedom to do things in a certain way. So I think that I saw that as one of my strengths, dealing with people and getting the best out of them and as well as myself, like the way I like to work in maybe a more unstructured manner where I'm more productive. So I think being unstructured and having a lot of ideas around building a team was one of the things which I thought I can use better.
I agree that a lot of times, especially in MBA, organization development, culture, all these things are considered as very soft, right? Whereas later on, as you try to build your own venture or try to expand, even in the corporate setting, then you tend to give more value to these soft skills. And that's how that takes you to the next level, right? Thinking more about the startups that you started, Pankaj, I have two questions over there. First, you had to shut down the first venture. It's never easy. So, what was something going on in your mind? And second is when you started your second venture, how did the first one help you or change you as a founder, change you as a person that helped you with building the second one?
It was a factor of two things. So one, what effect COVID had on our business.
Hmm.
And second was that because of COVID, things slowed down. So I also got time to reflect on, what we were doing for 10 years.
Yeah.
So if I talk about the first thing, COVID uh, killed 90% of our revenue.
Yeah. So it was a services business. You were going out and getting feedback from the customers, and now no longer in COVID, people are actually going out to some, say nail salons or even for a pastry or for a restaurant, right?
Yes, you're right. So yes. So as you said rightly, that all the shops were shut.
Yeah.
People are ordering food and so on, and so the business is not focusing on the customer experience; it's just focusing on delivering safe food
Yeah.
or maybe whatever online commerce and so on. So that we did not have a choice because we not lost 90% of the business. We had to let go of a big chunk of a team, and then we got time to reflect. And I say this because when you're invested in something, you rarely get time to reflect, and there is a natural attachment. So I believe that the breaks in reality are always clean breaks. You never plan them. They are like a discontinuous shift. They're not a straight line. So if I take like analogy of a relationship, a lot of time when you are in a relationship, it is not going so great. And after you get out of that relationship, your friends would ask you that, why didn't you do it earlier?
Yes.
Where the answer was that, it's one day you get up and leave. You can
Mm-hmm.
never plan it because there are a lot of emotions, investment done in something. So I take that like in Red Quanta, we had invested like 10 years and we had
Mm-hmm.
great clients. We had built a good team, but still it was a services business and uh, it was not scaling as much as we would have liked it to. Though customers loved it. Like till now, I get calls from the Red Quanta customers that, okay, are we still doing it? And when I tell them that, "Oh, unfortunately, we are not doing it, but I can refer them to somebody else."
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have told me, okay, are they as good as you were? So that's always a good thing to hear.
Yeah.
But
But
uh,
but on the hindsight, it looked like COVID was the catalyst that made you jump one day and try to change it.
yes, yes. And COVID was the catalyst which brought us into the product
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
And so I think product is different challenges. But if you ask me personally, it is more satisfying having a product because uh, then the possibilities are more. You can globally expand much faster.
So something you mentioned in your early response was about experience to safety. And when you said about safety, it made me think about pulse, right? So was that something during the first business itself? You found out that, hey, there is a need for a second product that we need to either build out or use, say, a third party to help us do that. That's how it came out to be.
Yes, so a lot of our clients, in our first business, we used to help clients once they open their doors to serve the client. Once the
Hmm.
clients walk in, we'll take their feedback and tell them how the business is doing through the client size. And in the second idea, in Pulse, we were helping our clients get ready to serve the customer. So by ready, I mean that, preparing safe food or setting the ambience right or having the marketing elements in place or the efficiency. So that's the key difference. Earlier it was once the customers are in, and the second one, we help them prepare to serve the customer.
Seems like market tells you what they need. It's funny that one of the businesses that you are in gives you the idea of the second one, right?
Yes, yes. I believe in the saying that when the student is ready, the master appears. So the signals are always there.
Yeah.
So we were getting insight, and then in COVID, also one of our clients specifically asked for this kind of software which we have built now. So there are different, uh, pushes which happen, and yes, they're very organic. I can just tell you that, it's a lot of time you can say, okay, I'll plan X, Y, and Z. Of course, it's like more or less organic. You're thinking, you're deciding, but a lot of external factors also play a part.
I think you mentioned that it's not easy to leave your first baby or your first venture. and then starting the second one. But how did the first one not working out the way you thought of earlier helped you become a more insane founder or an entrepreneur the second time? How did that help you in your mindset?
Again, as you are saying that, it's not easy, that you build something for 10 years and an external event shuts it down. So I'll come back to the story. So I had to see, what I have gained from the first venture. So we had, as I said, global clients. We had built a team. We had raised money. We had experience serving a lot of those clients. And we had built a tech also. So I saw these as the common factors which could give us a jump start. In fact, like 90% of the team that we have in Pulse has come from Bitcoin.
Okay.
As you can imagine, hiring good tech resources is always very difficult. That was a big advantage we got in terms of the second venture. Again, in the mind shift was that, okay, this time we are building for a global market. This time we're building a product which can potentially be much more valuable than the first one. So that was kind of a solace that you have. And then again, I'm saying that when you're doing all those things, you don't get time to think so much.
That's
So
true.
I'm thinking now because we're talking. Otherwise, it's like, one step at a day.
Okay, Pankaj, let's go back in time. I know like we pretty much went to the same school, same engineering college. A lot of people actually cast doubts on your ambitions, thinking more about your entrepreneurship journey. Were there any limiting beliefs that people put on you or you got conditioned because of that? Did you feel that? How did you overcome if you felt that?
So, in terms of the doubt, the self doubt, or the people around you doubting, that
Hmm.
is like a continuous thing. It happens all the time, no matter, what you achieve or where you are. That's how the world operates. So I have no complaints about that. But I'll talk about some specific instances. Like I decided to start my first venture while I was in like last semester in the college. And what I noticed was that if I'm not talking to a lot of my friends and classmates, then I would be in a different zone, very high on the ambition of starting something. And once I sit with them, they would talk about, this company is not coming for placement, this company is hiring less people, or this company is giving less salary. And like they would talk about like it's doomsday
Mm.
all the time. So I saw that negativity affect me. So now instead of saying I'm a Superman, I can handle that negativity and still focus on my business. I decided to not be part of those discussions because I realized that if I'm part of that discussion, I could easily be affected by the same thing. I could like, be infected with the worries and so on. So I think having that self-awareness that, what are the things which distract you or demotivate you and consciously staying away from them is very important. Yeah, so that's one. As I said that, there will be people around who would demotivate you. And I'm
Hmm.
not saying they're at fault, because I would simply say that they don't know better. They do not know what you're thinking, what mindset you have and all that. You can't expect everybody to come and say, hey, you're doing a great job, you'll be successful. That happens.
Yeah, that happens very rarely. That's right. And maybe some of their doubts are because of out of concern more than anything else. But you need to be able to take that out of your mindset.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because a lot of people, they are well intentioned, they
Yeah.
are concerned.
Even our parents are well intentioned, but sometimes they may not be thinking about taking risk like we want to plan out, right?
Yes, yes. So if we talk specifically about parents and all, I think as long
Hmm.
as you can assure them that, you're taking good care of yourself, uh, communicate well with them, how are things going, what is your plan, and so on, that helps assure them. I think that definitely helps. Having communication is key. And you will be surprised many times, like when you talk to your parents or family, they're not as worried as you think they would be. You know, they help you face the challenges. They can be motivating also. So I think it can be a good support system. I think the second thing is that, I come from a family which likes to read. Like my
Hmm.
mom, she has written 7 books and
Hmm.
she writes for different publications. And my dad, he likes to read a lot. So
Hmm.
I was always reading books from my childhood. And that transports you into a different world. And like reading biographies was my favorite kind of genre. So I've read about sports people, rock stars. business people, and so on. So what I realized that, reading book does not change your behavior. So it's not that if you read a lot of books, you'll become entrepreneur. Like if you look, maximum books are about, crime thriller and so on. Nobody becomes a criminal after reading the books, or nobody does more charity after reading about Mother Teresa. So if you're already believing in something and you also read about that, that can help confirm what you're thinking, that can help structure it. So I think that is what happened in my case. That I read a lot of books, they were confirming what I wanted to do. And of course, there are inspiring stories about ups and downs. I think that helped me a lot.
If I remember correctly, you were one of the few friends in my circle from childhood who was always reading books. And I take that from you that one should read books. One should read books not just to fill in time, but also to get inspired, to either confirm your own understanding or explore something new. Wonderful things come out of reading, essentially, or exposing yourself to other stories. And books were one of the great mediums so far. Could be nowadays, it's about podcasts. You can listen to so many podcasts. It's all about reading stories, hearing stories from others, right?
Yep, 100%. I think podcasts now or books, they are like, it's like a vicarious way of be on somebody else's journey. And it can be fascinating, it can be inspiring, and it can drive some action on your part.
Right,
So I think, yeah,
right.
so always a big fan of, I think it's like a me time also when it's a silent time.
Yeah. I was listening to someone's podcast. They said that it's your time, your quiet time. And when you are mentally quiet, ideas appear during that moment. So that definitely confirms that. Okay, Pankaj. So now thinking more about the team dynamics, talk us about some of the core principles that you have when you are building your leadership team or even the expanded team? What's your core framework around that?
I think in terms of team building, we must be doing something right, because we have excellent team members who have stayed with us for now, like 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. And so I reflected on that, because this is rare, and it's again a true blessing, very company to have, like, people who have been with around you a long time. In terms of specifics, we have like a very open culture which demands a lot of ownership and accountability, because we do not believe in that, follow-ups or running after people and so on. Like, again, taking an example, we have a no leave policy. Anybody in the company can decide how many leaves they want. They don't have to come to us and ask, okay, I'm going for a leave. So when somebody asks me that I'm going, I say, it's, the policy. You don't have to ask.
Yeah,
What you
yeah,
have to think is that somebody is going to look after your work, or it's not needed, you have everything set up. Or if you want my help, to request somebody in your team to, take care of the things that you're taking care of, I can help. Otherwise, you decide. So this is one of the examples. And similarly, to maintain this culture, sometimes we do end up hiring people who do not understand so much freedom and they misuse it. So instead of changing our policy, we basically let go of the person, because I like strongly believe that, for some people who are not uh, in tune with the policies that you have, you should not change the policy.
Pankaj, you mentioned earlier that human resources was one of the favorite topics during the MBA program, right? How, when you now think about building the culture, what sort of frameworks do you use, or how do you institute some sort of, not necessarily a policy, but sort of loose framework so everyone follows towards the same goal, essentially?
So, Rajesh, like in a startup, you rarely have redundancy. Most of the time, you have one person for one job. So while we are hiring, we look for a high level of ownership, be it a senior level or a starting level. And then we also expect people to do multitasking. So while we're expecting, we also have to give a lot of freedom to fail, to experiment, and so on. And I strongly believe that, there are no good or bad people. There are good
Hmm.
or bad fit.
Yeah.
When we are recruiting, we check for the fit. And one of my favorite questions to ask in an interview is that what does a candidate look for while they are evaluating a company? That gives me a lot of insights into, what they are thinking beyond the salary, the work they are going to do, even beyond how much they have to travel. So do they even have a criteria to evaluate a company?
Was there any answer or any response from any of your candidates surprised you?
So a lot of times there are happy surprises, like even freshers would speak that, okay, they're working in a startup, so they would get to work directly with founders, or they would get to work, learn on various kind of topics, experiment more. They want to work in a closed team. And the things which surprise me, not happy surprises, are when people are quiet. Even if I give them time, I prompt them. If they do not have anything beyond, if somebody just looking for a job, any job,
Hmm.
that probably is not going to work for a startup, and they might be a bigger fit for a bigger company.
That's right.
And I think one more thing I'd like to add here on team building is that, about the culture, how I see my role is that if you have, say, a football team, you need a captain to do the toss. It doesn't mean the captain is good at everything, defending, attacking, scoring a goal.
Hmm.
So I am very clear that I have a role. I do sales and I do product, but there is equal respect for everybody else, because what tech is doing, I can't do. I can't even do what accountant is doing. I can't do marketing. So we are all a equal team,
Hmm.
and maybe I'm there to do the toss, or maybe break a deadlock, do a
Hmm.
veto on very, very
Yeah.
critical decisions. Otherwise, we have built a culture where everybody respects everybody's role. So I think that's also very.
That's how the teams should be, right? Like everyone understands their roles and everyone is playing their part without overreaching someone else's unless one needs help.
Yes. Because in organizations, sometimes you see that the salespeople think that, okay, they are the ones who are bringing the business, so they should be treated different. But I believe that, every department, be it customer support or quality, so everybody has a role without which you cannot deliver. So we ensure.
One of the important items that I feel is that momentum or the energy, right? And energy and momentum starts right from the founder or from the leadership team. How do you sustain the momentum? How do you energize yourself or bring that same energy back into the team? How do you do that?
And so one, there are certain mechanisms which help you handle, the ups and downs. So the ups and downs could be as frequent as, like, 5 times a day you're feeling on top of the world, and you're also feeling absolute. So I like to walk a lot, so that kind of calms me down. It's like meditation. Then we spoke about reading, so that helps. And I think spending time with friends also helps. So I make sure that I make time to spend with friends. I think that relaxes you. So you have to get out of that zone where you're always thinking about work and hustling, talking to the clients, talking to the team. So I think that is on a personal level. I'm saying that how do I keep my energy high? Then
Mhm.
in terms of the team, I think there are different things which help. One is that we are very transparent with all our teams, so they know, what is the revenue, how many clients are going. So we never shy away with sharing the bad news with the team. Sometimes you could think, okay, if I share the bad news, they'll get demotivated. But I'm like surprised many, many times in this venture, in the previous venture also, how the team comes to support you. Everybody raises their hand and pull their weight to help you around. I think so. I think that's something which keeps the energy momentum.
Yeah. So you say that the transparency helps bring people together and that keeps the momentum high in the company. That's interesting. I never heard of that.
Yes.
All right, Pankaj, we'll probably wrap up now, but before we wrap up, give us some recommendations or give us some suggestions. What are the top books that you have read so far that everyone should read that could help them, spur them into action?
I think the top ones which come like top of the mind are, one is the biography of Robert Moses. He is the guy who built a lot of infrastructure in New York.
Mm.
So why I like that book is that it resonates with something I believe. So Robert Moses is like, hated and loved in equal parts. So I also believe that, the life is great. Not everybody would support you. Some people would pull you down, or you would have negative legacy. I think that's an interesting book. It looking to get inspiration from somebody who builds a lot of things over a long period of time in face of resistance. One can read. And the other one is Fooled by Randomness. I'm saying that specifically because it taught me the concept of expected value. Because we end up taking a lot of decisions in the life based on probability. But I think looking at expected value is a better way to take decisions. And again, so I've said two books. but I also believe that no book can harm you. So if you feel like reading, you should just pick anything and not wait for the book.
Thank you so much, Pankaj, for sharing your journey with us. It's been incredible to hear about the lessons that you have learned so far while building Red Quanta and now at Pulse. I'm sure everyone would take away so much from your experience that you have shared with us. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yes, thank you, Rajesh. It was like really wonderful, like speaking with you. We have spoken endless time with friends, but now coming on the podcast, it's a great experience. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Take care, Pankaj.